What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So like I talked about in my last video, we have a little winter project to work on with the Donzi. Last year in the Tennessee run, we had a little bit of a boo-boo. The front of the bow met the dock in an unauthorized way. So those of you that have experience with Volvo outdrives know that they're electric trim. They're not hydraulic like all modern outdrives are. So they're not really held solidly like hydraulic. And sometimes they just kind of have a mind of their own. And sometimes if you put it in reverse, the prop will just pull the outdrive right out of the water. And that's what happened to us last year. We were at Awakening of the Horses in Tennessee and coming into dock for dinner. As we were approaching, wasn't even coming in hot, just clicked it in neutral. I'm coasting in, waiting for the right time. Went to hit reverse. By the time you realize that the boat hasn't stopped and started reversing, you look back, the outdrive is just basically out of the water. And at that point, it was too late. And we went nose first into the dock. All the docking had angle iron braces right at the front. And ours was the only one that didn't have rubber on it. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, yeah, put a nice little gouge in the front of the boat. Did I cry? I don't know if you would call it crying. I mean, don't our eyes always have water in them? What constitutes crying? I mean, I definitely didn't talk to anybody the rest of the day. Maybe not even the next day. I mean, people were checking on me. They said I was pretty upset. It could have been crying. I don't know. No, I didn't eat anything that night either. I mean, I was upset enough to cry. Maybe I cried. I don't know. You know, what would you do if you put a hole in the front of an original boat? So that's why in my previous video, we got her off the trailer and got it blocked up here, ready to start working on fixing the front of the boat. The tough thing about having an original boat is you can't have mistakes like this. These types of things can't happen, but the also other unfortunate thing about a all original boat is every time you look at it, something seems to happen to it. It is a lot of work to keep an original boat original and perfect, and I do a pretty good job, but we had a boo-boo, and now we're gonna fix it. All right, so now I've got this taped and tarped off. Nothing crazy, just want to try to minimize as many places as dust is gonna get to. And so now I'm gonna start kind of prepping this area. What I want to do is just put like a tape perimeter around. Oh, yes. Guess I had a turbo. We got a shop kitty in here. Turbo. So what I want to do is get a tape perimeter set up here. I'm going to have to sand some of these edges just to make sure they're not so chippy and flaky anymore. And so I'm just going to sand those smooth. I'm not trying to make this any bigger than it is or any bigger than it needs to be. And so I just I'm gonna tape off the work area, and I'm gonna do it thick too. That way with sanding everything, it doesn't cut through any of the layers of the tape or all the layers of the tape. And so I'm gonna get that set up. All right, so now that I've got this work area taped off and ready, like I said, I'm going to sand the edges because you got these brittle, chipping, flaking edges all the way around, and I just wanna make sure that those kind of taper in and are smooth and become just kind of one with the area that we're working in. And so I'm just going to very carefully sand that. I taped it as close to the area as I could because I don't want to make this any bigger. I don't want to make my work or repair area any bigger, making it more difficult to blend the gel coat color and that whole nightmare that's going to come later. So let's try to sand this and see how nice we can make these edges. Okay, so I just wanted to smooth it, taper it, make the edges a little less prickly. We don't want them to be prickly. And I think it looks pretty good. Having never done this before. And what? You're warm? You got the fire? So what I just did now was untape everything from what I did, because I noticed that, you know, even though I put the tape perimeter there, obviously, I used an 80 grit to sand that, and of course it ate through some of the tape, which was expected, but I didn't want to use that tape perimeter to start any of the fiberglass work, because if it was inside some of the tape lines that I could see, then we're gonna have a weird gap there from where the fiberglass is and the tape line and everything. So now I'm gonna reset my perimeter for fiberglass different than my perimeter was for sanding, and then that should be the, oh my goodness. All right, I got my tape perimeter reset, and now we're going to get ready to start prepping the fiberglass work. Now, I've never done this before. I know I'm making a video, but that doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. I've just done some research and watched some other videos. And so everything I'm doing is mostly for entertainment. If I end up doing it well and it turns out right, then write it down. You learn something. We both learned something. So the concept that I have understood that needs to be done with this is, we got a hole. Let's call this the hole. What we need to do, because the fiberglass all the way around is higher than the hole is now, so we got to build that back up in layers of fiberglass. And so what I've seen to do is to just basically kind of make a template of what the hole is, and then start with start layering pieces of fiberglass, building it up, getting slightly smaller in the middle, brings that peak kind of out, and then once that sets, you can sand it, shape it, and see if you need to add another layer or two. But that's what I understand that needs to be done for this. And so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make these little fiberglass. I'm gonna cut out some layers of fiberglass and build that back up so that it's not, I mean, you can see the bite that was taken out of it. We're gonna build that back up, don't mind the cat, and then we can get back to shaping it and all the other stuff. All right, so this is just some fiberglass that I have, and I'm just gonna cut a square here first, around the size I think it might be. I've tried not to look at the damage too much because it makes me upset, but I think I've got a good idea of what size it is. All right, let me go see. Way too big, which is good. I'm glad that the size I thought it was too big. I'm just cutting this right now to get my template of what size the ending of the fiberglass needs to be, and then I'll make smaller layers inside of that, building it up. Okay, so I got it. This is about the size that the ending will be. It's still, the edges are a little frayed, but basically, if I want to get to the whole outside edge of everything, that's about the size I need to do. But you can see, obviously, one layer pushes right in. It makes no difference. But that's going to be the base layer, and then I'm going to do more layers inside of it, building it out. And from what I've seen, the couple things that I've looked at, some guys will just do it right on the boat, you know, put layer at a time. But from what I understand and the things that I've looked at, it's best to kind of build them up before you put them on. So I'll basically wet this and just keep putting the layers in, and then once it's built up, then apply it to the boat and shape it, get it on there, let it sit, and then see how much sanding or more layers need to be put on after that. We got to keep the party going. All right, now we can get back to work. What can I do to get you to come down? Damn shop cats. All right, we got our handy dandy mixing cup here that I made because I didn't buy one. And don't even get me started on these throwaway brushes now at Home Depot. Well, they used to be like 60 cents or something like that, maybe 40, $1.20 something now. I can't even deal with it. But So because I also don't have gloves like I'm supposed to, I'm just gonna try to do this as carefully as I can. Get the first layer saturated. Then add in the second layer. I'm just gonna keep topping it and building it this way. Like I said earlier, it was another example video that I watched on a not identical repair, but just a boat fiberglass repair in general. And he sold me on it. He said stacking these layers, getting the layers set up before you put them in where they're going is a good way to do it. So I got that wide layer on the bottom, which will be the width of the damage. Bringing it in high and center to match the peak of the bow. All right, so now we got 5 layers in there. Let those set for a second. Just gonna add a little bit of resin on the spot just to get it nice and adherable. Just gonna take our piece here. I'm just gonna brush it and get it to match, wrap around the edges, match the contour. Let me wipe my hands. Okay. So, and I want to push it in, even if I don't have enough layers, actually, especially if I don't have enough layers. I really want to push it in there because I don't want it to be like a bubble that, you know, because of the layers holding each other out, and then there's like a hollow spot, which is just not structurally sound. I'm okay if there's not enough layers. I can always add more layers. I just want it to be truly filled in, and we will shape it or add later. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You get random fiberglass hairs and stuff flying around, but that's okay. But it's pressed in there. It's setting up. From the looks of it, we're gonna need some more layers. But I'm gonna let that set, and then I can add to it, build it up. I don't want to put too much all at once because I don't know what that'll do. Okay, so here's what we got after 2 rounds of fiberglassing. So I did the same thing I did the first time. It was I put another 5 layers on in the same way, and I don't know how well it looked in the video before or now, but there's still a bite out of it. You can tell there's still a bite, but at least in person, it's significantly less already. So we're just gonna let this cure. I just put it on a minute ago, and gonna let that set up. But this just kind of shows you how much was actually needed. I thought when we started, just based on what I see in person here, that first 5 layers, I thought we'd need more than that, but it really looked like it might have got us pretty close when I started. But now, after having done this, we got 10 layers on there, and there's still a bite out of it. It really just shows you how much fiberglass and gel coat and everything is actually there. So once I get this sitting above flush, because we want to save some room for sanding it down, then I'll come back and we'll go through that part together and start shaping it and then getting it ready for gel coat. All right, so I know for you guys it's just the next scene, but for me it's a whole nother week. And so this is where we left off. I put a bunch of more layers of the fiberglass on, just didn't record them. And if you remember from the last video, this has leveled out a lot more. I think pretty much all that we need. So now I've taken the front hook off too, because I know it's gonna get in my way for sanding and shaping. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get this cut away carefully and the tape removed and retape, and then Gonna start sanding. Gonna get these edges sanded back down to gel coat level, get the center shaped and sanded down to the fiberglass level. Then it'll be time to fill that in with the gel coat that we still have to mix and figure out our perfect color match, play with dyes and tints and everything to try to match this original hull color, obviously as close as I can. And that should be what we're working on next here, but we're gonna get this tape off and get to sanding. So I wanted to show you guys this before I taped it back up. I tore all the tape off that would come off, and obviously because of the fiberglass and the resin, everything that extended outside of even the range of my repair zone, it fiberglassed the tape basically, which is no big deal. I'm gonna sand that all off, but I'm about to retape a whole new perimeter. That way, as I'm sanding, I'm not hitting the boat and all of that, but I just wanted to show you guys what was left once I tore all the tape off. And this is my big fiberglassy blob, and you can see in the center, you can see the white edge. You know, the middle of that is the actual repair zone. This is all extending it, which is fine. It's all gonna get sanded down. And I didn't want to power sand. I was gonna really just do this all by hand because I didn't want to risk going too hard or too much, but this is such a blob. It's such a big blob of fiberglass that I'm gonna power sand at least some of this and then hand sand and block sand it from there. See, this is one of the original layers of tape that had the fiberglass on it. So I got down to that. We're back down to original boat. All that came off. Just had to burn through a couple of them outer layers there. So now I'm definitely hand sanding, blocking the rest of this. I'm gonna again retape these edges that came off with this last power sand. But I think we're ready to just do it by hand and shape this up. I'm gonna retape it now and keep going. Okay, oh, all right. So you can say what you want, but there is no longer a bite taken out of the front of this boat. I may not have done it the way you would have done it. I may not have done it the way you're supposed to do it, but I did it. So I got all the edges evened out and blended in like I wanted. And this is, let me see if the light will help you guys see anything, but you can see the layers of fiberglass, everything there. Now it is pretty much flush right now, which actually in my guesstimations is not exactly ideal because the gel coat is going to add a layer. So if I'm starting it flush, that's not good. So I got everything blended with the outside edges that I wanted to do. And now I might actually sand down the middle a little bit more, sand down inside these edges a little bit more to kind of crater it a little bit so that when I add the gel coat, it's filling that and not topping it. And then when I sand the gel coat, I'm sanding it flush with the boat versus, you know, if I put it on right now and then sand it smooth, I'm just taking it away. But I'm just very glad, very, very happy that the hole is filled and it's got a good structure again, and it's shaped back to the way it's supposed to be. And now I'm just going to tweak it and get it finally ready for gel coat. So I'm trading my sander in for a buffer, and I'm going to clean the front of this up. I'm getting ready to start making my color swatches, my samples of different mixtures, trying to get this color so that it matches the boat, but obviously I can't do that if it's all rubber marks and tarnishes from over the years and other incidences and all that stuff. So I'm gonna buff this, get it nice and clean, everything around my repair area to get it as sparkling, whatever color it is, as it ever was. It did clean up all those rubber marks and everything. Now we got a nice clean surface to test our color matching on. All right, so here we got the gel coat that we ordered. This is from Marine Coat 1. Don't know anything about it other than I looked it up and it had some good reviews. So I got it. Here's all the different little colors it comes with, the catalyst, and we're gonna play science project and try to make up our own custom color to match a boat from the 70s. So I got a few different things. This is just the gel coat by itself, just a pure white gel coat. And then I tried to mix a dot of black into one to make a gray. And so then what I would do is I would add, because I can't just mix the black and white, that just makes gray. So I'll make a gray and then add a dot of the gray to a white and absorb it in. And then I tried the same with a brown. I made whatever the heck that made, a white and brown, almost like a pinky thing. I added that to white. And then yellow, same thing. Mixed a white and yellow, made that color, added that to a white. And it's probably gonna be hard to see. Let me see if I can get a light here. So I've added a couple dots right up here. You can see a couple. I got, that one is just a pure white. That one is the white with a little bit of brown. And then this one on the tip, that one was the white with some yellow. I'm sure it's not gonna show up correctly in the camera with this light, but that white with the yellow, I'm telling you, it's pretty darn close so far in person. So I'm gonna mix a couple different things. I'm gonna try, I still have some, I've heard about mixing red in. I'm gonna try one with red. And so far the yellow, this white with yellow, add it to the white, very, very small amounts, because that yellow, any of the colors, they like to cut through still, as you can imagine. I'm gonna try this red, see what that makes, and I might make a decision on this now. Okay, so here I've made my dye cup and my coating cup. So this is gonna be the gel that actually goes on the boat, and I'm using this one, has a little bit of gel in it. I'm gonna make the color dye in this one, and then add it to that one, and slowly dye the main one with this one. And then when it's all done, even like those samples that I put on there, it didn't have any catalyst in it. That's why I was able to put them on the boat to look at the color. Once I get this to where I think I need it to be, then I'll add the hardener, and then we'll be ready to put it on. Well, I forgot to turn the camera on when I put the first coating on, so you didn't get to see the dramatic change of no color to color. But I've got a coat on there now, and I think we're gonna leave that, let it sit, let it harden. And I made way too much. I didn't know how much to make. Now it covers pretty easily. I don't know how it looks on the camera. It's not going to perfectly match right now. Once it sets, it'll set into its true color, and then once I sand it, we'll see what the blend looks like. If it's not close, if it's not close enough, if we're not happy with it, I can make a different color, I can sand and add as many times as I want until I'm happy. So we'll see. Okay, so we let the gel coat cure overnight, and this is what we got. It looks like a mess. Obviously still needs to be sanded. The color, not as close as I wanted. It still looks quite a bit lighter, which that's fine, because this is gonna get sanded down. There's gonna be more coats and layers that go on top of it. I'm going to play with the color a little bit more, try to off-whiten it some more as best that I can. So I'll get this sanded down and see if it looks any better sanded, but it looks like that color needs to be tweaked some more. What's up, guys? Getting back at it today. I saved you the hassle of the sand repeat videos, and I've got the job, what I am considering, done. There's some caveats to that, but we got the boat where it's gonna be, whether you like it or I like it or not. So I ended up having 3 layers or 3 coats of gel coat I ended up putting on. And if you remember from the beginning of this video, what the front of the boat looks like, it doesn't look that way anymore. My color blends came out okay. Everything I'm about to say is what I'm okay with. Not 100% happy with, not thinking that this is the best job ever done. This is what I'm okay with, and I'm gonna explain to you why we're leaving it at that. So again, when you compare to earlier in the video of what the front of this boat looked like, it is back. We've got the shape. We don't have a gouge anymore. There is no visible damage. The color is, from, you know, a little bit of a distance, pretty perfect. I'm actually happy with it. What I'm not happy with, but am not going to do anything about, is you can see around the edges when I sanded the gel coat down, it kind of showed the underline of the damage that was once there. I did it through every coat that I've done. Down at the bottom, it's not doing it, but right up at the top, for whatever reason, it's kind of showing the outline of the damage. Now, it's not there. It is smooth. There is not an edge, nothing. It is perfect, but it's shown through. It's almost like the gel coat got a little opaque as I sanded it. The reason that I'm going to leave this is because I have a fear. Right now, the boat looks fine. It looks great. It looks better than it did. If you're looking at it from 2 feet away, it's 100% perfect. And that's closer than most people are ever going to look at it. You're not going to see anything from a dock. You can't see it when it's on the trailer because the bow stop covers it. That's all you're gonna ever see. My fear is that if I chase this to make it 100% perfect, which I know that I can do, I'm not worried about that, I have to make it bigger to make it perfect. That's the bottom line. When I started this, I had to make it a little bit bigger because I had to sand all the rough edges out and get everything, all the broken bits and torn and tattered, cleaned up and smoothed out and make the whole work area perfect. So I already had to make it a little bit bigger than it was. Then when I did the gel coat, that had to go even bigger than that so that I could blend it in. I'm already significantly bigger of a work area than the damage was, and that's just the nature of a repair of something like this. Now I've got these little edges that are showing up, and I know that I have to go beyond them to hide them, to blend it out, to cover it all. And my fear is that I'm going to get bigger and bigger trying to chase perfection, and it's only going to make that spot more noticeable. The color, like I said, it's very good. I mixed around a few different batches of the gel coat and dyes, and you saw that whole part, and it looks really good. There's not a big yellow spot. There's not a big bleach white spot. It looks passable, but it's not perfect. It's not the same exact color, and I don't want to make that any bigger than it has to be. Yes, it is not perfect. You can see little cracks and things, not cracks, but you know, the underlying evidence when you get up on it. But it's a 49-year-old boat. There are blemishes all over the boat. If I had it uncovered right now, I'd show you some just spots of age. There are minor stress cracks. There's a couple little dings and things from the original owners and just from time. It's a boat. It's very hard, as we can see, to use a boat, even one that doesn't get used very often, and not have something happen to it. It's 49 years old. It isn't perfect. And This is the logic that I created. You might not be happy with, but it's an original boat. It's not been restored. For me to make that spot perfect, that's kind of a restoration, isn't it? Now I know that we screwed up and we got damage that has to be repaired, so that spot is not original anymore anyways, but you know what? It's not quite perfect, and neither is the boat. That's what makes it original. And so that's the clever logic that I'm coming up with to be okay with the outcome of the boat. I think I'm happy. I think I might get myself to a spot if I try to chase this where I say, damn it, it was fine. It was fine, and then I went more at it, and now look at it. You know what I mean? I was right there, and then I had to go for it, and now I've got an even bigger mess, and I don't want that. I think I have saved this just enough to make it right again, and I don't really want to risk that. There's actually a picture I have of this boat back in 2008 sitting on a hoist, and I've had this picture for 16 years. I've been staring at this picture, and it's always just looked absolutely stunning and perfect, and I've loved it. And ever since I got to this stopping point, trying to figure out if I'm actually okay with it or not, I started getting really critical and like, let me see how perfect the front of the boat really was this whole time anyways, even though it was perfect. But I looked at this picture that I've had for 16 years, and I zoomed in on it, and you look at the front of it, just the rubber and scuffing from the bow mount on the trailer, that's always been there. It's always been there in this picture. I've never noticed it. I've never paid any attention to it. I've looked at this picture and said, God, look at that boat. It's perfect. And this mess has been on the bow of the boat the entire time. I've never even paid attention to. And this is a picture of a picture. And the picture was probably taken at least 20 feet away from the boat as it's out on the hoist, out on the dock. And I've never, ever seen it. And now you can look at the boat from 4 feet away, and it doesn't even look as bad as that picture does when the boat was truly perfect. So you know what? I'm calling it. I'm not going to make this any worse. I think that it's fine. I have repaired the damage. That's the most important part. There's no risk of any water soaking in there, getting in there. Obviously, it doesn't look like crap anymore. That is the most important part. I've made it passable to the eye, and I think I've made it passable to myself, and we're going to call it. So I've worked with fiberglass before. I've never worked with gel coat. This was my first time working with gel coat, and I gotta say, I actually had a lot of fun with it. As stressful as it was working on an original boat and trying to perfectly match colors and doing all that, it was kind of fun to be a mad scientist with all the concoctions and colors and tinting and trying to figure out. And there's my messy workstation. I didn't have anything to say about this product in the beginning because obviously I'd never used it and I didn't know how it was going to go. But this is the brand that I used, and it was really nice to work with. Everything was great. Everything was great. All the colors were as they should be. The yellow, which I used yellow quite a bit for the tinting. This paint was like a little dry, but it still worked. But everything, the gel coat was great. It was just nice to work with. Everybody, I'm on all these Donzi groups and forums and everything, and I see guys that are restoring Donzis or any boat, and everybody asks, should I gel coat or should I paint? Should I gel or paint when they're looking at redoing their color? And people give their different opinions and things like that. And I've seen plenty of painted Donzis that have been restored and they look beautiful. But I'm gonna tell you what, from using this boat and the things that have happened, gel coat is so strong. There's been an incident where the engine cover, I prop it up sometimes to let it vent before starting or let it cool down after running, and it doesn't lock in the rear. The hinges they slide right out. And there's been 2 times where I've either gone to get in the boat or the boat was running and it shook that just enough, and that engine hatch has fallen and fell on top of the deck of the boat and slid. And one time I had to dive and it almost fell into the water. Like I said, every time I look at this boat, touch this boat, use the boat, something happens to it. But so that's happened. Now I've got a whole new set of rules to make sure it doesn't happen anymore. But that lid falling on top of the deck of the boat and sliding across like that, if that was paint, done. Goodbye. You know, but I was scared to even look the first time it happened, and I grabbed that lid and put it back up, and I look around, there's not a mark on the deck of that boat. Gel coat is so incredibly resilient and strong, and after working with it now, I like working with it. The shapeability of it, it's great to work with. I actually had a lot of fun, even though this was very nerve-wracking. So I recommend, if you're repairing a boat or restoring a boat, gel, screw paint. It's paint is so thin and brittle. I don't like it. But this is what I used. It worked out great. It did the job. Like I said, I'm happy with it. I'm happy enough with it, and that's what we're gonna deal with. So appreciate you guys watching. Hope that it helped at all. And again, if it didn't help, I hope it was at least entertaining. See you guys next time.